Mdntv, the podcast. Be abreast with now. Never miss a thing with Mdntv, the podcast. We love to keep you in the present with diverse goodies from secular and non-secular subjects of global interest. Join us. Grab more from these series. Listen to our podcast. The undeniable.
It's sundown. The day has just begun. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Yes. This is MDN Shows Running with the Times, only on Mdntv, the podcast. And I am Major Daughter. Welcome to all our listeners, viewers around the world. Meet us in the comments there. Engage, ask questions. Share this podcast, share this broadcast. Tell everyone they don't want to miss this one. Ever heard of palm reading? Ever heard of astrology? Ever heard of mediumship? Well, today, that is exactly what we are talking about. What is mediumship? And look, we bring you a guest who's a professional, been doing this for the longest time ever, and he has provided readings to a lot of people and has helped them to connect with their past loved ones, right? That is just one part of it. He can help you connect with your past loved ones. He does that. So before we even get to that, we're going to really start with what is mediumship? What do you know about it? Let's first rewind and go to what the Bible says. We saw a king of Israel, very powerful king of Israel. His name is Saul. When he was at the end of his life and he was in a predicament, really cornered. Things were not going well. So he went to consult a medium. Saul chose to go and seek answers from a medium when God could not provide him with answers. When God didn't provide him with answers. I mean, how many of you are listening to me right now and maybe you're a believer, maybe you're not a believer, but you have gone to consult a medium? Tell us about your own experience. Well, Saul in this case, went to consult a medium when God didn't provide him with answers that he wanted. So he went to see a psychic and he asked the psychic to summon the spirit of the prophet Samuel. Is that even possible? Now, remember, that's why I said you've got to really pay attention. He wanted to speak to Samuel, the prophet, who was already gone, dead, gone home to be with the Lord, whatever the case may be. So, Prophet Samuel was not alive. My guess helps people do what the psychic was instructed to do or requested to do by the king of Israel. So, if you think something like this is not even in the Bible, or something like this doesn't even exist, you've got to think again. Today, we're going to investigate together, going to research together. We're all going to find out together. How does one connect with those who have passed? Is it right or wrong? And why is it wrong? And why is it right? Why should anyone even do it? People who have passed away, do they have a say in our life? Do they have a say in what happens now? Well, let's find out together. Right after this.
Mdntv, the podcast. Be abreast with now. Never miss a thing with Mdntv, the podcast. We love to keep you in the present with diverse goodies from secular and non-secular subjects of global interest. Join us. Grab more from these series. Listen to our podcast. The undeniable.
The undeniable choice indeed for today is Carlos the medium. Look, we are so honored to have you, sir. Thanks a gazillion times for saying yes. Thanks a gazillion times for availing yourself. It's unusual, and it's not it's not every day you'll have a psychic, you'll have one who practices mediumship come on a show like this, or come on a show even to do what you do. Please tell the world, who is Carlos the medium? We appreciate you and welcome you. The mic swings to you now.
Thank you, Major, for having me on your podcast and on your show on Mdntv. Well, I'm Carlos the Medium. I'm a professional psychic medium, and I help people connect with their departed loved ones that are now in spirit, with the aims of providing them closure and healing from those who have departed, and so they can, deal with grief and other things, and so they can move on with their lives and, have closure that their departed loved ones are always with them.
Wow, it's amazing what you do. Incredible, mind-blowing. I mean, so many ways to describe it. But the question is, what inspired you to go for mediumship, and why did you even and how did you even get started? I'm asking all this because it is scary. It's a scary thing to just think about dead people, past loved ones, those who are gone, but to even think of bringing them back, talking to them, communicate. Paula?
So I never sought this work. It's a calling that was basically like spirit knocked on my door, and like it's knocked on many other mediums' doors. But this is a life calling as part of my destiny. And I went through a lot of health issues in my early 20s, which made me very sensitive and also kind of opened my energies up to something more of a higher consciousness. And I, like I said, I was never seeking mediumship, but I was at a crossroads in my life, and I ended up going to a message center or an evening service for mediumship with a friend, and some very talented mediums, in a sense, kind of told me that, one day you'd be doing this work professionally, but I didn't really give it too much thought. But it was through the process of trusting and having faith that just the right doors aligned for me and to go into this work. So I always tell people, like in many cases and with many things in life, oftentimes things you're destined for will come to you very naturally without you really having to seek something. It's a natural inclination to do something. It's just a natural calling for something. It's part of your destiny if it's meant to be.
Absolutely. But let's ask, you say it's a calling, and
yes.
I just want to rewind to that.
Yep.
If it's a calling, but who calls you and who called you, and how does the calling take place? Somebody once said all those people who are psychics, who are mediums, some who are herbalists, and in the Black community we have what you call sangomas. All those people are actually supposed to be prophets, or they were meant to be prophets, but they ended up being mediums and psychics. And what are your thoughts on that, Paula?
I'm not too familiar with that term that you're referring to, possibly in South Africa, that term you use, that local term. But, there's a difference between psychics and mediums. So psychics connect with people's energy, a direct person's energy, and they may be able to see past, present, future. Mediums connect directly with those in spirit that have crossed over into light at a higher consciousness. So that is the difference between both of them. But if you could clarify the beginning part, that would help.
Yes. So I'll drop that and just move on right along quickly. Sure. You also provide readings. You have provided readings to numerous number of people.
Sure.
And you provide readings on Zoom as well. How
Correct.
do you get to do that virtually? Because if it's palm reading, how do you read the palm on virtually Zoom?
Well, let me address that correctly then for you. So I'm actually not doing any palm readings or palmistry. I'm connecting with the person's energy, their vibration, I'm also connecting with their loved ones that have crossed over into spirit. So I'm connecting with
Yes.
consciousness, and consciousness is infinite and it's universal. You could
Yes.
be from one side of the world to the other side of the world. You're connecting with consciousness that's infinite in the universe and a vibrational energy of pure love and happiness. So it could happen virtually. It could happen on the phone. It could even happen through, I guess, if you wrote letters back and forth with someone, but if someone was in a meditation state to receive those answers. But or it just can happen in person. So it actually doesn't have to happen face to face, one on one, in a physical, in a personal environment such as that. It can happen virtually as well.
I see. Now, let's talk about how this happens. You have helped many to connect with their past loved ones.
Sure.
How do you connect with the past loved one? I mean, in the situation of the king of Israel, Saul,
Sure.
he wanted a psychic to do exactly what you do, bring back the dead prophet, who is Prophet Samuel, to come back and talk to him. He was seeking for guidance.
Sure.
Yes.
So, yes, ma'am. Major. So, what we're dealing with as mediums is we're connecting with energy, a vibrational force of energy that is infinite. So, it's a consciousness of pure love and happiness that this once we depart, that's where the soul goes on to into the afterlife. But from what I can tell you from my line of work and my experience in all these years, basically the way I can describe it is this: you and I and everyone else here, we're on an earth plane, we're in a physical dimension, and spirit is vibrating at an infinitely high rate of frequency of pure love and happiness. It's a different form of consciousness, but it's a much higher rate of consciousness that is flowing in the universe.
Yes.
It's present with us. And what mediums are able to do is essentially they're hypersensitive or very sensitive to energy or energy vibrations, and they're able to pick up on that consciousness. Now, how effective, efficiently, and how strong it comes through, that depends on many factors and variables there. But essentially, the aim is to connect with that energy and bring through evidence or any type of information that the sitter or the person receiving the message can relate to. Sometimes it does not make sense to them because it's not always supposed to make sense, but that is the aim. But the whole goal with all of this is to connect with a higher frequency of love, those in spirit, relay the information and the message, so the person that receiving the message can know that their loved ones are always with them.
Wow. And how do they receive this message? Is it energy connecting with energy? Now, I'm really trying to understand. And are you trained to do this? Were you trained to do this? Can someone train to do this?
Well, that's a very good question, Major. So think of all our senses. We can hear, right? We can see, we can smell, we can taste, we can touch, right? So we have different physical senses that we're able to do as humans, right? But what we're doing with mediumship is we take it to an extra level of sensitivity there, and we're receiving a lot of things in different ways, in different directions, if you will, with our extrasensory perception, ESP. But we are receiving things maybe visually. We can sometimes hear them. We can sometimes sense them. The majority of the time with spirit, you're really sensing that energy. It's clairsentience, which just means clear feeling, but you're sensing a lot of the energy of that spirit. And when I'll give you an example, so you may sense that there is a father figure to that person that was, let's just say he may have been an alcoholic, also not very present in that person's life. You may sense that type of spirit there, but then as you're sensing that energy, you also will start getting visuals, flashes of light, flashes of visions that represent maybe the cause of passing, maybe the profession. You might even see a letter for their name or just different things, or you might even hear their name, as well. So it's all happening at once. I always tell my clients it's a bombardment of information that just comes to you at once. And you try to relay that information to them as effectively as possible to this person receiving it. Now, how do you train for it? It takes many, many, many years. I mentioned in the beginning, this is not something you just one day wake up and say, I want to go do this. It's kind of right. So I always liken it to many ways like this. A lot of people they find themselves in a career field over time that just comes just the right people and the right opportunities, the right experience and places just come all at once, in different times, and it just takes them to that place, that destiny. You can't, Steve Jobs once said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can connect the dots looking backwards. But somehow the right people and events and just situations come to be that lead you to that place. And, as far as training, yeah, you can read a lot of books. I trained in a metaphysical community here in the United States. And I took many workshops and classes and many years of practice. Meditation is one way you do self-training, but essentially you can learn all that stuff and be well-versed from the learning aspect of theory. But when it comes to practice, you have to do the work before you start becoming who you become. It's just like what you're doing now. You could take a communications degree, but until you do it yourself, you're working in the television industry, you're not going to become good at what you do.
Wow. I have so many questions that are racing in my head, but I'm going to jump to this one, and then maybe we could go backwards a little bit. We've had so many people lose their loved ones through the pandemic and during the pandemic, and even now people are still losing their loved ones, even to the same COVID and other things. Now, you have helped people through your mediumship readings to resolve their grievings. How does that happen? And have you heard, and I'm going to say this because it is no secret, that you also have Christians and believers who come for mediumship readings. What has been your experience, and how does that happen? How does it resolve grievings?
Well, yeah, right. So, this global pandemic with COVID has been, a very tragic time in our history. But as far as connecting for people, and as a medium, you're connecting with all people from all walks of life, all faiths of life, in all parts of the world as they come. And so, your main objective is to help and connect them to their loved ones. So you can provide them closure and healing, but also just that extra reassurance that their loved ones are there with them during the best of times, during the most difficult times, because that energy is omnipresent. As far as the religious backgrounds, I've had clients that have come from the Muslim faith, Christian faith, Jewish faith, atheist faith. Atheist, I don't know if that's a faith, but agnostic. Just yep, Buddhist, all backgrounds, because there's something that connects all of us, irregardless of our faith, to each other, to our family, to our friends, and that's bound by love, and that's what the universe is constructed on. It's an infinite tapestry of love that's interconnected with and interwoven with all of us here. And so when a client comes to me, I don't look at that person or judge that person as if this person's coming from this faith. I look at that person as someone that I want to help and connect with them with their loved ones. And that is the aim. And like I've said, I've had clients that not so much believers and some that are believers, some in the middle. But the goal is always the same with everyone. And you do the very best you can. Like in any industry, some people you can help a lot, and some people that maybe you only get as much as you can. But the whole goal is to help them and to connect with their loved ones and go from there. And I've been very grateful that I've been able to help a lot of people, and a lot of clients from all walks of life have been very happy with my services to help them. And I'm sure with other mediums out there as well, because when you approach something from a good place in your heart, it makes a big difference.
Yes. And my thinking is, do they tell you that, do they divulge that they are believers, Christians, or whatever faith they belong to, or they never say that, or do you just pick it up? I'll tell you why I'm asking that. Sure. For Christians and believers specifically, sure, the Bible strongly condemns mediumship, occultism, psychics, and the sure likes. In fact, it doesn't allow for a believer to consult a deceased loved one, or even seek guidance from them, or seek any form of contact. Yet there are believers who are doing it. Now, I'm asking that, based on these facts and the strong condemnation from the Bible? Do they tell you? Are they honest when they come and say, look, like Saul? Saul knew that he was not supposed to do that. He was not faithful to God. He instead of inquiring from the Lord, he went to inquire from a psychic, and he knew that he was not, but he did it, just like many others are doing it.
Sure.
What do they have to say about that? Do they ever? And what are your thoughts on this?
Well,
I'm sorry.
No, yeah. So let me answer your question, Major. So with all clients, the majority do not divulge or disclose any of this information. They are coming for healing. They're coming with the goal of connecting with their loved ones so they can have closure. So that is essentially the role I'm playing, is to help them in that way. Like I said, I'm working with all clients from different faiths of life, respectively. And my goal is to help a person, and regardless of their faith, my job is to help them as best as I can to connect with their loved ones. How I feel about it is really, I'm just there to help and hopefully provide that closure and healing and that connection to their loved ones, and to help them out as much as I can. And when you do something like I mentioned, or in the very beginning, we're essentially connecting with a consciousness that's universal in the universe. It's infinite of love. And that love is represented in all walks of life in all parts of the world. So I approach it from that attitude, and always try to do the very best I can for all clients, regardless of where their faith may lie or elsewise.
Let's talk about some of the testimonials you have received from those who are grieving, especially those who lost so many of their loved ones just through the pandemic and what the world has been going through. Can you tell us about some of those experiences, Carlos?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, you have different clients from different walks of life. Some people did not lose their loved ones during the pandemic. Some people lost their loved ones, 30, 40 years ago through a world war, or maybe they are trying to connect with their father that they never got to know when they were very little or so. But, the whole goal is the same, to connect with everyone as best as you can with their different loved ones. Their loved ones will come through in different ways. To identify themselves as best as possible. You're in there for some surprises, because every session is just a different dance. You don't know what dance you're going to expect, because it's like how you can't cookie cut this. So not every loved one is the same as every loved one in the world, because if you look at every person in the world, every person is unique and different just by appearance. Even twins have their own personalities and consciousness, right? But as far as testimonials go, I've had, I've helped a lot of people in work, and I continue doing so. And I hope that's my goal and aim with every day with the work. And it's been very much a pleasure, and also coming from a place of gratitude to be able to do something like this, to do in this line of work for others.
Mdntv, the podcast. Be abreast with now. Never miss a thing with Mdntv, the podcast. We love to keep you in the present with diverse goodies from secular and non-secular subjects of global interest. Join us. Grab more from these series. Listen to our podcast. The undeniable choice is so Carlos the medium. Look, if you've just joined us, we are talking mediumship. Thank you for staying on. There's just so many things that are coming to my mind, raising so many questions. But thank you for your openness, Carlos, and you've really been open in talking about this freely. Do you belong to any form of faith, religion, or you're just Carlos?
No, I was raised Roman Catholic my whole life. So I was raised Catholic, and it wasn't until I got into this line of work that I discovered metaphysics, so divine metaphysics. So understanding what is beyond the physical and how it's all interconnected in the universe. But I still very connected to my faith, and I firmly believe in God. I believe that everyone is a child of God, and
Yeah.
the world is comprised of love deep inside everyone, and that connection is connected to God. So yes, I am. I am a firm. I do have a good connection with God myself. And like I said, my background growing up as a kid throughout my life was Catholic until my 30s when I wasn't. Now I am active in divine metaphysics.
Now, what is scary, and I don't know what your thoughts will be, we have now psychic AIs or AI fortune tellers. Are you scared they're going to take over artificial intelligence doing psychic readings, fortune telling, and the likes? Or are you maximizing also the use of AI? All right, so we've got artificial, let me try to break it down. We've got artificial intelligence fortune tellers now.
Sure.
So meaning a psychic AI, a psychic artificial intelligence where a robot is now doing the readings. And I'm saying, could this be the scariest thing? Should you be concerned that robots or the AI, the artificial intelligence is now going to take over your psychic readings jobs of fortune telling or things like that? I hope that really explains.
That makes sense. Thank you. I was trying to understand the question in the beginning, but this just clarifies it a lot more better. So as far as AI and psychics or any type of bot using computers to connect with, or apps to connect with people,
it's not even possible. But is it even possible as a medium? Is it even possible for a robot, a bot, a AI to do what you're doing? Can you be replaced by an AI? Maybe that should be the more relevant question.
I don't think so, because I'll tell you, what you and I share in common, and everyone, our viewers, is there's a consciousness, there's a human element to all of us, and that human element allows us to connect with each other. So that's essentially what also we're using as mediums to connect with spirits, because that human connection, that of love. And as far as a robot or bot or some type of app, it's programming, it's software from a coder or individuals. So I don't see that human to human connection there that is required for what you're to do this line of work. So no, not worried about that. First time I've heard about it, to be honest with you.
Well, are you saying, let me try it this way. Are you saying an artificial intelligence cannot make a psychic prediction or reading or whatever it is?
Well, I'll say this. Now, I'm not too informed or versed in what the trending technologies are with bots, apps, or anything with computers, AI, and psychic world. But what I will say is, if they did, it's probably based on logarithms that they were able to maybe predict certain historical trends of things that are occurring within time, from the past, and maybe predict in the future as well. So that could be the case. But as far as the mediumship goes, it's my opinion here that you would need the human to human consciousness connection there to connect with that higher vibration with
Absolutely. Spirit. Let's move on. The psychic in the King of Israel's case. He or she was actually very scared of what showed up when she performed whatever she did to bring the spirit of Prophet Samuel. Let's talk about you. What are some of those surprising moments you have had when you're doing these mediumship readings? Paulus?
Sure. Yeah. So it's like I mentioned in the very beginning, we're connecting with a higher consciousness of love, happiness, infinite light. And, as far as surprises go, each client, each reading is very different and unique.
Yes.
And there's been some very unique cases where certain loved ones have come through, and they're very creative in identifying who they are based on maybe their line of work or something they did when they were here on the living, or anything that's as creative as they can. So you are always full of surprises. But I will say this: it is not a mediumship is not a scary experience. I think that sometimes Hollywood or movies or TV tend to dramatize things for the ratings or for higher viewership. But it's a natural connection that we have to that higher consciousness, and it's a very beautiful experience as well that everyone can experience either through meditation or their own journey themselves. So they may. I'm sure that there's numerous listeners out there that have had some form of spiritual experience on their own through their own loved ones, or when they've just been somewhere and they just saw something that was just unexplainable.
Is this really big business? Or we're just blowing hot air, or they're just blowing hot air? There's no such a thing. Is it really big business? Is it the biggest business in the world?
Absolutely not. I would liken it to maybe some type of professional counseling or therapeutic service of some sorts, but it's from a spiritual place. So it is not a major business in that aspect. You can only do so many readings per week because it takes a lot of energy out of the person to do so. So it is not a major business in that aspect. I think people are very curious about it, and there's a lot of books on it. But as far as the one-on-ones, it's more similar to someone that has a practice that is seeing people for therapy or something like that. But you're limited to what you can do because it takes a lot of energy to do it effectively and do it to the best of your abilities. So yes.
What is the most challenging aspect of mediumship? Is there any?
I would, yes, definitely, mental burnout, because, like I said, every dance with the mediumship is different. So you have to be very just omnipresent with the client and bring through the information to best assist them or help them and connect with their loved ones. But also, the burnout, because when you're talking to these different loved ones and you're helping the client out, they're going through a lot. They're grieving, they're healing. They've experienced loss, tragedy, and sadness from the loss of their loved ones. So that also affects someone because you're processing all that. So that is when I would say definitely one of the biggest challenges of doing the work.
Now, I'm just thinking, when you go to bed at night,
sure,
get to dream about those people you do readings on, or readings for, whoever you bring back, the past loved one. How is your day-to-day life like? I mean, how is your night like when you sleep? I'm just thinking all these things, because having to deal with so many spirits. What happens now when you lay down to sleep, Carlos?
Well, after a few readings for the day, you disconnect from that energy, from spirit's energy, and the goal is to ground your energies back into the earth plane, and you resume your life like anybody else. You cook, you clean, you run an errand, you spend time with friends, anything like that, and you disconnect from it. And at nighttime, you go to bed, and the next day is a new day like everyone else.
Wow. Look, we are at the tail end of this show. The show may be coming to an end, but the conversation doesn't have to. Now, how can our listeners, viewers, find out more about you And those who are interested really to get a reading on Zoom or whatever platform that is available, what would you have to say to them, Carlos?
Yeah, they can contact me on my website or look at my website for information on me. It's at carlosthemedium.com. That's all one word. Carlos the THE medium.com. And they can find me on my website there and read about my services. And I have a lot of informational content there as well on my blogs about mediumship, about how the senses work and how and different things all relate to mediumship as well.
Well, thank you so much for your time. The website is carlosthemedium.com. All the links are in the description. Make sure you get it. If you are not finding any, ask for it and it will be provided to you. Carlos, thanks a gazillion once again for your time and your contribution. So much we have learned today. Before you go, what will be your parting shot? Your parting shot, what would be your last words?
Oh, I just want to thank everyone for listening. I want to thank you, Major, for allowing me to be a part of the Mdntv podcast and show. And I wish everyone love and happiness. And thank you for letting me be a guest. And hopefully you learned something new from today's podcast interview.
Definitely. Thanks a gazillion time once again for your time, wisdom, and everything. Now, for that website again is carlosthemedium.com. Look, eat the meat, throw away the bones. Your choice.
Mdntv, the podcast. Be abreast with now. Never miss a thing with Mdntv, the podcast. We love to keep you in the present with diverse goodies from secular and non-secular subjects of global interest. Join us. Grab more from these series. Listen to our podcast, The Undeniable Choice.